Miranda.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I don't see any public comment. So approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, the 27th of August.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Then we had a special meeting on the 10th of September.
August 31st.
Did you? I got it.
Okay.
I'm sorry. 10th of September is today. Yeah, so can we approve that? Wow, okay. August the 31st, special meeting.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, communications, I don't have anything. Financial reports, I don't think we paid any bills since the last meeting. And then during financial reports, we'll have our department head, our comptroller, give us a report on what you had spoken to me before about.
Sure. So I was contacted a week or two ago by New York Class. It's a company that we used to invest our reserve fund money with a few years ago. And we took our money out because their interest rate dropped down to 0. So they're back in the game, and they contacted me to say that they're offering 1.89% right now in interest. Which is, it amounts to about $2,400 a month in interest. Right now, the bank is giving us $66 a month in interest. The only question about that is if we take our reserve fund money out of Key Bank, where we have everything else, we're probably going to get charged with bank fees, which we did not have in the past because of that balance being in there. So I've asked Key Bank to calculate what the bank fees would be if we take that money out. They offered an alternative, which is to invest in U.S. Treasury bills. Hang on, let me get the rates. So if we put the money with Key Bank in U.S. Treasury bills, it would have to be 30 days. You'd have a 30-day commitment, or 90 days, 6 months, or a year, and it could be all or some portion thereof. And the rates for 30 days are 1.9, which is higher than Class, and then 90 days is 2.06%, 6 months are 2.2%, and a year is 2.39%. And if we did that, even though the investment goes through Key Bank, it still would take the money out of that pooled money that they would calculate the fees on, so we'd still have bank fees. So I can't offer you anything tonight other than to give you that information to think about. It really depends on what the impact is on the bank fees. I think, though, I can't imagine $2,400 a month in bank fees when we could be getting $2,400 a month in interest from New York Class. Even better if you decided to do the Treasury bonds, the Treasury bills. So I just wanted to let you know we're looking at that. It could impact the budget, because that's a nice piece of interest that we could put into the budget for next year, where we're currently not recording any interest because it's so minimal that we're getting from the bank.
But as you said, we should find out the bank fees, because that will deduct from the amount of interest.
Exactly. So they're supposed to get it back to me tomorrow with that information.
Good, excellent,
Right.
excellent. Any other questions on that? Kelly, while you're on the floor, we're going to set a public hearing for overriding the tax cap tonight. I'd appreciate it at that public hearing if you could bring us the consequences of going over the tax cap without the resolution,
Yes.
and if we go over the tax cap with the resolution, what does that do? I've forgotten, I really have. I forgot what happens to the money, or you put it aside, I don't remember
Yeah,
how it's done.
from what I remember, but I'll double check for
Yes.
the public hearing, is if you do not adopt the local law to override the tax cap, but you do in fact override the tax cap, the difference between what you're levying and what you should have levied if you had stayed under the tax cap gets put into a reserve fund and can't be used for your operating budget, which, you know, it's very restrictive. If you adopt the local law and don't override, but don't override the tax cap, there's no penalty for not overriding it.
right.
So it's prudent to adopt the law. It doesn't mean that you're going to override the tax cap. It just means that if it happens that you have to, you'll be able to use that money for the operating budget.
Okay, just, when we have the public hearing,
Yep.
that can be part of our explanation
Sure.
as to what we mean.
I can write something up for you.
Okay, board liaison reports. Before I pass this on to the board, before Councilman King says anything, I want to make note that I went to a really, really nice affair, the Buffalo Soldiers Banquet. Unfortunately, I didn't make the wreath laying, but the banquet was really professionally, perfectly put on. I was very proud that Mr. Matthews, that Ty was at the dais and had a large part in it. I was treated like a king by Dr. Matthews when I walked in the door. I thought I had to look around, thought I was something really special. But it was very nice. I was given the opportunity to present to Cora Matthews a certificate for her 100th birthday. But if we put on something, I'm going to ask Ty and Andrea to take care of handling our affair. And before we even get into that, Andrea, are you here for public comment, we'll say?
Yes, so I did. I wanted to follow back, and I just wanted to say thank you for your participation. And I wanted to come and actually say thank you to the whole councilman, to everybody, to Mr. Sullivan, Councilman Sullivan, everybody who participated and represented the town of Highlands at the Buffalo Soldiers 57th. It was really, really an honor to be able to see so many folks from Highland Falls on West Point, and that's celebrating the legacy that we both share. The Buffalo Soldiers legacy is a part of Highland Falls, and it's a part of our community, and it was just really a stellar event to see all of us together, side by side together on that Sunday. So thank you for the gift, the proclamation. I'm glad this kind of sets a precedent, hopefully, for all the other Highland Falls people out here who are going to be 100. That shows the quality of life that we have in our town, that we have more people who will be turning 100. And I just wanted to say thank you for all of your support, and we'll continue doing what we are doing, and hopefully will be a pride to you in the community.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I'm going to add to that, I had the honor of sitting at the table with our new superintendent, three-star General Williams, and his spouse. First impression, super nice guy. I really liked him. I liked how friendly he was. He took our, Richard Sullivan sat with us also. He took our names, and I got to get back to you guys. I got to have you guys do that. I mean, we were like you guys. That was really special to me. I was very, very impressed by him. The Command Sergeant Major, Sergeant Major Love, super nice guy. His wife was also very friendly. I really, really enjoyed myself, as I think you might take from the way I'm talking about it. And now, Ty, you can go. Well, don't know what I could say after that, other than good evening, everyone, and everyone at home. And so just to piggyback a little, I did, as well as my colleague, Councilman Richard Sullivan, attend the wreath laying, and I thought that was equally as well done and professional and impressive. And the superintendent spoke at that particular event, and showed to me, as well as you, throughout the whole thing, that there's an opportunity for us to continue to build a relationship with a stronger one with West Point. I think so. And so that being said, great to see Ms. Matthews turn 100 and be as vibrant as she is, and with all her faculties. Just had a great time seeing her enjoy herself and be showered with all the gifts from the community, such as the supervisor, the Newburgh, New York mayor gave the keys to the city. We had a variety of other presentations, to include Lori Tortel from the county, and then there was some that were sent on behalf of Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney and Senator Christian Gillibrand. So definitely well-deserved. When you reach 100, you should get all of that and some. But I also echo the sentiments of Dr. Matthews. It was just proud for me to see the support from our community, to see us in solidarity and go out there and represent ourselves well. So thank you all for that participation. And in reference to the other things in the community that's going on, I intend to get really soon with the new Highlanders representative, so we could talk about capturing, maybe they have a population of people on their roster that they see close to 100, that we can also start to make that a tradition, to give out something to say, congratulations on reaching your century of life. So I just want to be on top of that. That's all I have this evening.
Rich?
So I made a note to myself, I was going to mention that I attended, and it says here, don't steal Ty's thunder, so I didn't steal your thunder, okay? But just real quick, your grandfather, my mother, who was a town clerk here for many years, before that job, she worked for Bill Avery on Mountain Avenue, and one day a car plowed through the building, knocked her and her desk right through a back wall of the building. She had to go to the hospital. My brother and I were there that day with my grandfather. That night, your grandfather and grandmother sent dinner down to the house. Your grandfather was a sergeant in the village police. I had a social media post on that because I found an article in the newspaper about it. So congratulations. It was really nice to attend. And the superintendent speaks 5 different languages, none of which I can understand except English. So, but
Wow.
very nice time. So in regard to, okay, now that I know budget season is coming, I hope that it worked out well the way we did it, Kelly. I went over, the ZBA, the Water District 1, 2, Building and Sewer, and I'd like to thank the ZBA. They keep theirs very lean. They're diligent and they're effective. They meet on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. They have a meeting this September 19th with the Water District. Did everybody get the report that I sent out comparing the cellular and the non-cellular meters? I emailed it out. Did everybody get that and see it?
Yes.
So we'll have to discuss that, because when that time comes, the Trimble that they use to collect data only works with a Windows computer that's 7 or XP. It doesn't work. We only have one left in the building. Once that computer goes, that system goes away. So that's what that report was about, was explaining what Pat's looking for to replace that. I'm not going to mention it when we're on TV. There's one particular user down in Water District 2. I'm concerned that their meter might be off. We can discuss that sometime. I think it's significantly off, but until I have proof, I'm not going to talk about it on TV. The sewer. For July of 2018, there was 5.6 inches of precipitation, and we used 74,000 gallons per day on average. I couldn't find the 217 report. Leslie sent it to me. That's my fault. I couldn't find it. And for August, we had 7.9 inches of precipitation. That's a lot of precipitation for August. And we averaged 86,000 gallons per day. There were 7 days where we were over 100,000 gallons, which means we're at 92% of plant capacity, 7 days. And I went to the meeting with Pat Patterson, and Al Fusco and John Nosek down to White Plains at the DEC Regional Office on September 4th, and I think we're going to discuss that a little bit more later on.
Yes.
So we'll discuss that, whatever depth you want to discuss it in, and, you know, we have some things to work out, but we're moving forward.
Thank you, sir. June?
I'll let our chief give the police department report. And just to remind everyone, and I'm sure Mary Jane had it in the paper, that tomorrow night at 6:30 at the Patriot Garden is the 911 ceremony. That is to remember all of the residents or citizens that were killed in that terrible terrorist attack, as well as the first responders and the PD. And there were, I think it's 300 and, it was around 340 firefighters that were killed that day. So that was quite a traumatic thing for the fire departments. So everyone, please come out and support them. And then sooner or later, Mr. King, we need to talk about, or I'd like to talk about the center, the senior council, and the Highlanders.
Yes.
They're all doing, the center and the senior council are doing great programs. And they had a very nice one at the library. They're doing it at the library. It was on Iona Island the other night, and it was really very good history. But maybe we can coordinate all that.
Yes, I think it was mentioned in a previous meeting. Was it mentioned?
Last meeting,
About the center's proposal?
Mm-hmm.
And I think initially I had a bit of resistance, but I think after further review, I've kind of swung back the other direction to think that they could be the pivotal point to centralize most of those services. So we could talk further in executive session if that's what you like.
June, anything else?
Yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, Rich?
Just attended the village board meeting last Monday night. At the meeting, I was presented a letter concerning personnel, I guess at the Roe Park Pool. There was a inspection by the Department of Health. As the pool is now closed, I don't think anything has to be done immediately, but I'll pass that over to you, Bob. And
Okay.
for next year, that would be something to address with them. To me, it seems somewhat minor, but I guess something has to be done. Other than that, no report.
Thank you, Rich. Since I preempted Ty on my report, we'll move on. Chief, did you have anything?
Just one thing, the new school, crossing guard's working out fine. I'll have more for the next meeting, because we have some events coming up between now and the next meeting.
We did meet with the chief, deputy chief, June Gunza, Councilwoman Gunza, myself, Ann Lawless from the school board, and Dr. Chaboy, superintendent. We had a meeting this morning to discuss security at the school. Since it has a lot to do with police personnel, I'm going to ask for an executive session after this meeting to discuss the situation at the school and police personnel and how we can contribute to the security at the school. So we'll call an executive session after the meeting is over. Kelly, I would like you to join us there because there's dollars and cents to talk about, and Justin also, the chief also. Okay, we have this tax levy resolution. Justin, you gave a good explanation of it, and if you don't mind.
Sure,
Going
certainly.
ahead.
Well, and you and the controller just discussed it well, right, and the purposes for it, right? So this is a local law that allows you, should you need to exceed the tax cap. It's established by the general municipal law. It requires a public hearing, just like any other local law. And again, it just you introduce the resolution, you have the public hearing, and then ultimately you'll make a determination as to whether you want to pass the local law. When you get through your budget season, you'll then determine whether it's necessary to use the law or not. Last year, you passed this legislation and did not exceed the tax cap and didn't need it. So this is a simple, straightforward resolution to set a public hearing on the override to the tax levy limit as established by the general municipal law, and it would be 2 weeks from today at 7 o'clock. It would be September 24th at 7 o'clock.
Do I have a motion to,
May I say something
Yes.
before you make a motion?
yes, what?
September 24th meeting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Are we postponing that meeting
Okay.
to the 1st?
I'm going to ask to postpone that meeting, but do we want a public hearing on, yeah, we can still have a public hearing. I'm going to ask to postpone that
Sure.
meeting. What it amounts to, I don't know if I'll be there, and I know June will not be there. So if we can postpone that and change the resolution to
Sure.
the first meeting of October, which is the 1st of October, is it?
Yes.
It's the, what day?
1st of October.
Okay. So you're calling a special meeting on the 1st?
We have a budget meeting anyway.
Yeah, we have, we
I understand, just for clarification,
Yeah.
so that, right? Because that's not a regular meeting
Right,
day.
yes, we'll have to have a
Okay.
special meeting and then the budget.
No
meeting.
problem. That's perfectly appropriate to do this October 1st.
Okay.
And
Before we go into even any further again, what did we decide on for budget meetings? It was either 5 or 5:30. Does anybody, Kelly, do you remember?
I thought it was 5.
And I thought it was 5:30, but it really depends on who can get
I'll look
here.
through the emails if you want me to find out.
I don't think I
Well, that's
see
right.
it in the
5:30 is
email.
good for me.
Okay, time 5:30 is best for you?
Yes.
Okay, Rich, did 5:30 make any,
Either way.
that's fine?
Either one.
Okay, let's make it 5:30 then.
5:30.
Yeah. So, okay,
Okay, so
we-
will the
We'll do the
public
public
hearing
hearing
be
right off
the
the bat.
first?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking for a resolution to schedule a public hearing on the 1st of October at 5:30.
a motion to
Someone
move the
makes that.
resolution?
Motion?
Second,
Roll call?
Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Gunza?
aye.
Councilmember Perry?
Aye.
Supervisor Lindsey?
Aye. I'll ask for a motion to cancel the meeting on the 24th of this month.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Okay, so we've got that done. Rich, you want to talk about the DEC?
Just, I apologize for
Yes.
one moment. Town Clerk Patterson, I sent you a notice for the paper for, right, so do you need me to send you something, or you'll make those?
I was just changing, I'll change it on the computer and send it to Mary Jane.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure we didn't publish for the wrong date.
No, I'm doing, actually, I was listening right now.
Sorry.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Rich?
Talk?
Yeah, talk to us about the
Okay.
meeting you had with DEC. Well, we can go into the whole thing, the probable cost that we're going to have initially, should we approve an initial expenditure of $11,000?
So I think everybody understands that this is separate and distinct from the project that isn't happening at the EFC project. And in short, I'd also like to preempt my statements by saying, I never look in the rearview mirror, so if I say anything that in any way infers anything that happened in the past, my apologies. That's not how I do things, just from here moving forward. So in short, apparently, when, I don't know how to say his name, he's Asian. I gotta get my terminology right. I don't know how to say his name. We was meeting with him, the regional director down in White Plains, John Nosek, and Alice Fusco came, and Pat Patterson came. During that meeting, what was discussed is down at the plant, this must be a relatively new thing. When you chlorinate water to kill the bacteria before it goes out into the Hudson, the residual chlorine over the last decade or so has been found to be harmful. It forms trihalomethanes and it can be carcinogenic. So they don't want the chlorine residual to be beyond a certain amount. And apparently, we don't have the equipment to do that because it wasn't required when the plant was built. So in short, where it goes out, what the plant operator was doing was taking bricks of calcium thiosulfate or a similar product, putting it around it, and so it would go through it and he would get a reading as it was going out that he thought was satisfactory. That wasn't satisfactory to the DEC with the inspection. And also, I was a little bit surprised during this meeting that apparently we had we were given a letter or something about a year ago that the claim wasn't answered. I don't know that to be true. I'm not sure that there's been proof found of that yet. So I was a little bit surprised by that. And they were rather affirmative about the whole thing. But Al Fusco sent his man, John Nosek, down the very next day. He went over some things with the plant operator and found a way right now to reach resolution using some technique with what we have. I'm not quite sure what that is. He's going to include that in his engineering report, which they wanted within a week. I think they actually gave us 2 weeks, but they wanted it or else we're going to be fined. And I think that'll get us through this stage. This dechlorination season runs from May until October of every year. And what they want is they want the dechlorination to be less than 5 milligrams per liter of chlorine, but they also want to have more than 2.0 milligrams per liter of dissolved oxygen. We don't have anything in place to do that right now. And if you went out into the Hudson, you'd be lucky to find it to be 0.5 dissolved oxygen, so it's far better than what's already out there. So to remedy this, there is room, and I can't show it on TV, but the report I sent you, there is room to put a dechlorination tank. We'd have to put in call it a pump, if you will, to pump in the calcium thiosulfate to help dechlorinate it, and also to have a blower to blow in dissolved oxygen. There's room for that. The other alternative is to go with ultraviolet. What ultraviolet does, there's no residual. It hits it, kills the bacteria, there's no chlorine, nothing. It's over with, the way it was explained to me. And also, that doesn't require using dissolved oxygen. Ultraviolet takes care of it. A little bit more expensive, how much more I'm not sure, and there's a lot more maintenance. And I'm concerned that it's going to be more than what 2 part-time operators can keep up with cleaning it. So I see Mr. Fusco just late today sent us a couple of proposals on this whole thing, and that's kind of where it's at. So I think that they're off our back for now. It's not going to go away, and I hope that what I just explained was understandable.
Okay, any questions? I'm going to offer a proposal here. I'm going to be out of commission, as the board knows, for at least the next week, probably a little longer. I would like to see Justin, Richie, and June, and Mr. Fusco sit down and discuss his numbers. I would like to, at this time, propose that we spend up to $11,000 on engineering fees for that. The other letter we're going to push off to the side until you sit down and talk to Mr. Fusco. So June, if you could organize a meeting between those 3 entities, I would appreciate it ASAP.
Okay.
So would someone like to offer a motion to spend up to $11,000 for engineering fees to comply with DEC's demands?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so carried. Thank you. I think that'll move us forward, and if maybe, June, if you would notify Al Fusco that at this point, he has permission to do the $3,000 report, which he says he's already done, or is doing.
Okay.
The engineering report for,
Yeah, the initial response to
Right.
the DEC.
yeah,
That keeps them from fining us. Then it's almost the end of the season. That buys us, I think, until next May.
Buys us sometime.
Yes.
the DEC fines are quite amazing. They start out their fines at a crazy number of $37,500. That's their initial fine. So we got to stay away from that as best we can. So I think this is the right way to go, and if anybody doesn't think so, please, as I've spoke to someone today, I'm one person on this board, that's it.
Also, when this EFC project starts, there's not a lot of room in that plant. If you have this whole thing being chewed up, and then this at the same time with a separate contractor, that'll be nothing shy of a nightmare. So it'd be really nice if we could move this right along.
Okay. Senior Coordinator, Ty, you offered another thought on it. I wonder if you could kind of head an oversight committee, see if you can bring the three organizations together with the mindset that maybe the center can run the coordination, come up with some kind of a number. Justin's going to look into a contract possibility with the center where we would pay them X amount of dollars per month, and everything would be funneled through them.
Okay.
And I think you talked to me about this, maybe not, but I saw the mayor at the farmer's market, and he wanted us to look into putting the recreation department into that building.
Yes, I did talk to you about that. So that means that's two of us that concur, if he agrees to do that as well. Because I spoke with Aaron, we had a good conversation about it. He's on board with it. And I think we addressed the issue in the past about having someone there to keep it open. So this would kill, so to speak, two birds with one stone. And then gives us space for some other needed moves in the town here.
Okay. So we'll look into that along, come up with a plan for us there, please.
Okay, I
Got
got
time?
it. I got it.
That's right, you're done on West Point or not?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Okay. Justin, did you come up with anything on repeat offenders?
Sure. Well, I started by looking at your law, which actually gives you quite a bit of flexibility already, and has, right? So what you've done recently and the public hearings that you held recently were one of the alternatives that you have in your legislation, right? Which is you hold the public hearing, you have the ability for the person to come speak. They don't, the town may then go perform the work and recover its costs, a minor surcharge. There is an interest component actually, and then ultimately Kelly helps produce resolutions each year where you re-levy against those taxes. And that structure's in place, but it's only one of the two alternatives in your code. The other alternative in your code as it exists is, and you can do them both at the same time, but is that you can also cite them for a violation where they appear before one of your two justices. And that has a structure speaking to increasing penalties, right? So on a first offense, it's a fine of $300, up to no less than $300, no more than $500 on the first violation. But violations are technically by day. Now, it doesn't mean your judge will impose a violation every single day that the grass is overgrown, right? That's somewhat within the discretion of the judge and the prosecutor and the defendant to figure some of that out, but ultimately the judge's call. But first offense, minimum of $300, maximum of $500, or 15 days in jail. Again, not something that judges frequently do, depending on the nature of the violation, obviously, and how frequently it occurs. Because just as you are getting tired of seeing the same property owner or property owners come back before you with the same problem, judges don't like that either, right? So the second fine by the judge goes up to minimum of $400, maximum of $800 per day of the violation. The third fine goes up to not less than 600 nor more than 1,500 per day. And the fourth or more is a minimum of 1,000, no more than 2,500. And again, each come with the ability for your judge to impose up to 15 days in jail. So that's not something you all have done recently, right? Recently, we've identified the problem, or the building department or a citizen has called in, identified the problem, building department checks it out, comes to you, you give the property owner the ability to come before you. Every single time they have failed to, you send your building department out, they make the fixes that are necessary, and then we charge them, and then ultimately, I don't think any of them have paid, and you re-levy it on the tax bills, right? And that process can still all happen, but at the same time, you can be sending these same people to court, where they will get fines at a minimum. I'm not suggesting judges throw a lot of people in jail for some of these offenses, but they will get fines there as well. That would also become a judgment against their home or their property if they fail to appear and pay. So we can increase those penalties if the board doesn't feel they're sufficient, and we can increase the surcharge back on the process we've been using, right? For lawn maintenance.
That's where I think is the
Right.
best thing to do.
That surcharge for lawn maintenance is kind of low. For other types of maintenance, right? There have been times where you've had to board up the homes to avoid infestation or secure a home for other purposes, and then you're charging 15% on top of your actual cost of work. Lawn maintenance, we targeted at $75, and maybe that's appropriate. Maybe, it's probably not appropriate at any time, maybe a first offense, but certainly not a second or a third. So that be an area that could be increased. The fines themselves could be increased a little. I mean, 300 to 500 on a first offense is
It just seems to me the surcharge is the easiest way to do it. Because trying to fool around, waiting for them to get to the judge, waiting
Oh,
for
yeah,
the judge.
that takes time and resources.
And nobody's going to come. The banks are not going to come. The abandoned property owners are not going to come.
Right, I mean, for the most part, you are correct, right?
So if we could up that surcharge
Sure.
for repetitive.
Yep.
Can we, instead of at 75, can we go to 150 or 200? And
Yeah,
so
sure.
on up the ladder?
Sure. And even the initial could be higher than 75. I would imagine sending your guys out with your equipment probably costs you a minimum of close to $75 between time and labor and away from their primary
Yeah,
functions.
well, I don't think our guys are doing it, but that's beside the point.
Okay, well, or whoever you're contracting with, right, I mean, you're,
Yeah, I think that's the way I'd like to go, is on the surcharge.
You mean
Instead of
leave
fooling around with the
leave the
judges.
fines as is, but increase the surcharge?
That's what I'm suggesting, but.
yeah, I mean, I think, and that's
the
fine.
quickest and easiest way to do it.
I have not spoken to village council. We did a little bounce back, typical of today's society. So I will follow through to see if she has some different concept or idea that might also make sense, but this is increasing that surcharge certainly seems to make sense.
The village seems to be leaning that way too.
Yes.
Again, the only negative is, so this is part of your local laws, and a lot of local laws that we have fees in, we say within the local law, you can just change that by resolution, because this is really about property maintenance and it wasn't fee-driven. You will have to have a local law amendment, just correcting that section of the law, meaning a public hearing, meaning a little more process. Not hard, not a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think the public will be terribly concerned with the change, but it's a formality that you'd have to go through.
How much are we talking about increasing the surcharge?
Well, I can look around. at some other codes and give you some suggestions as to,
And
Right.
perhaps when we do change this, we should be able to change it in the future by resolution.
sure, I think the surcharge and those fees could easily be done. I think if you were changing the fine levels at the court, you'd probably want to have another public hearing. Again, those are pretty substantial fines, again, because the judge has the ability to do it per day. Again, not that
But
they always
ordinarily,
do.
they do not.
Well, no, they often strike a balance, right? Because by the time someone gets into court, often there have been 30 days that have gone by, right? And, right, that's a very excessive, if they did 30 days at even the minimum of 300, I'm not going to do the math in my head, but it's a lot. And so often they'll work out a resolution, right, as opposed to a trial with this person who doesn't appear, and they'll strike upon a balance. But if it is a person who continually fails to meet their obligations, they tend to increase those fines or fine more days. I'm just saying that they're not right away, often on a first offense, going 30 days and jail time.
I'm not sure if everybody else has a better fix on it. I'm gonna get with Bruce. I'm curious as to what's happening, like what percentage of these, I don't like to use the word zombie home, just because the house is abandoned doesn't mean it's a zombie home. Like, what's happening out there? Are the one we acted on last time was, I think, a person is deceased and has been for some time. I'm just curious what percentage of them are bank foreclosures, et cetera, and so on, and how many are actually just blatant people that just don't do it. I'd be curious about that.
You know, and compared to the village, we have very little down Fort Montgomery. We have maybe 3 habitual offenders, and that's it.
Right.
Actually, 1 habitual offender.
One habitual and some occasional.
Okay, so,
But I'll draft, I'll get it to all of you. I'll also look at and speak to some other local municipalities.
draft
check
us a
their.
proposal with the numbers for
Yep.
increasing the surcharge, and before we adopt it, we can always play with the numbers then.
Correct, absolutely.
Okay. The mitigation update resolution, since that hasn't been read by other than maybe June, because it hasn't been readily available, it's in draft form right now. I don't think the county has acted on it. Then June, jump in here if I'm saying anything different.
No, it's offline at the moment because the county has to adopt it. Although when we were working on it, I had printed out the county section and the town of Highlands section, which is not equal to 600 pages that Al's talking about. But he did send a Dropbox finally. So if anybody wants to sit at the little computer downstairs, they can try that Dropbox.
Okay, so we're going to table the mitigation plan resolution. And I have nothing else. Anybody else got anything? No? Yes? No? All right, then I'll ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss police personnel. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. We will not be coming back into session after that meeting. And I'd like to ask the chief and June and Justin to join us.
Yeah, what did you want to ask?